surprise, surprise, a Sunday live. How we doing, everybody? What's up? Did anybody watch that Jerry Springer court case that I posted today? Oh my God, I'm not going to show it in the live because it's on my page, but I'm telling you, if you haven't watched it, it is unbelievable. I couldn't believe what I was watching. You guys are going to love it. What's up, people? How we doing? We have a St. John update. I think it's going to be part 3, which is the final. She's not as dumb this time as we thought. How is everybody? Hope everybody's enjoying it. It is disgusting, the weather out in Jersey. So I said, you know what? I'm raining. I'm home. Had a good weekend with the fam. I might as well go live with my YouTube fan. So how we doing, everybody? How we doing? Thank you for joining me. Let's have some fun. And DeSanto doesn't like this first defendant and what he calls his lady. He don't like it. She don't like it. Here we go.
All right, and we are going to go on the record in the matter of the state of Michigan versus Wesley Chastain, 23864. And appearance, counsel?
Good morning, Your Honor. Attorney Corey Westmoreland, appearing on behalf of Mr. Chastain. Mr. Chastain, would you please state your name for the record?
My name is Wesley Chastain.
Okay. And counsel, today is the arraignment as your client's in custody. And so as to the arraignment.
As to the arraignment, Your Honor, we are prepared to waive a formal reading. My client stands mute.
Or waive the formal reading, enter plea of not guilty for purposes of the arraignment. And the court will schedule this matter for a pre-trial on May 4th. At 10:15 a.m. And counsel asks to bond, and then I'll give the detective an opportunity to respond.
Yes, Your Honor. I would like you to know that Mr. Chastain is a local resident of Wyandotte for roughly 37 years. At this point, he will be able to move in and stay with family in Southgate. He is employed full-time at Hungry Howie's. He has no prior assault of criminal history.
Credence and
No
Mikey,
other
people.
pending matters at this time. He's not currently on probation or parole. After speaking with him at length this morning, he did assure me that he would be appearing at all future court dates. Respectfully, Your Honor, I'd simply just be requesting consideration for a personal bond on behalf of Mr. Chastain.
And detective, if you could please state your name for the record.
Detective Steve Sabo, Wyandotte Police Department.
All right, and as to bond, counsel.
As to bond, Your Honor, I think it's reasonable for a
Thank you,
$1,000 cash bond.
That is my girl.
There's been several incidents in the past, whether they're followed through
Thank
or
you,
not.
Karen, for the dono.
In this case, the victim went to the hospital to get checked out and had medical records. And I'm asking for no contact whatsoever with a complaining witness and not to return to the location of the residence, in addition to a GPS tether. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. And Mr.
Peach.
Chastain, where do you work at Hungry Howie's?
Yes, I work at Hungry Howie's. Sorry,
You hear that?
TV's messing up.
What happened, Judge? Look, she doesn't
All
like
right,
that.
and which one do you work at, sir?
I work in Dearborn.
Are you currently on probation or parole anywhere, sir?
No,
Have you ever failed to appear in court for any reason?
I never had.
Are you out on bond in any other jurisdiction?
Sorry, I couldn't understand you.
Are you out on bond in any other jurisdiction?
Am I out of?
Out on bond.
Oh, no, I'm not.
Out on bond.
And if you were to test today, sir, what would be detected in your system?
I would definitely have marijuana in me. But that's it.
And when's the last time you used marijuana, sir?
It's been probably 2 or 3 days ago now.
$50 of flavor. What is that? Hungry Howie's? What's that? Is that what's on his shirt? 'Cause I never saw that before. It's not a Jersey thing. Brian and Kim, welcome to the live. I've seen you in the comments before. Welcome. Welcome to the TS fam, baby. DeSanto. I didn't give her a kiss all weekend, guys.
And sir, have you, had any contact with any witnesses
Thank you, Peach.
at all since you've been in custody?
No, not at all. I haven't talked to anybody. I tried to call my lady once yesterday so she could see if she would call my work to tell them that I wasn't gonna be making it in. So today's gonna be my second day of a no call, no show.
Your lady?
Well, that's, oh, her name was Christine. Christine Miller.
Same one, and that's the same one that is the named victim in this matter, correct?
Your lady?
Yes.
And where is it that you say you can go live in the event you are, able to post bond?
So I would be living in Southgate.
Southfield or Southgate?
I'm sorry, say what?
Almost said what? Remember
Did
that?
you
What was
say
that from?
Southfield or
Wayne's
Southgate?
World?
Oh, I'm sorry, Southgate.
Sphincter says what?
Southgate.
And who would you be living with? Who would you be living there with, sir?
I'd be living with my Aunt Deborah.
Aw, Aunt Deborah.
And you're sure that Aunt Deborah would let you stay there?
Yeah, I'm sure she would.
Isn't me or DeSanto so patronizing? Isn't she so patronizing? I swear.
She gonna be mad at me, but I'm sure she would for sure.
She's got Richie, thank you for the dono.
Well, I'm not sure what's laughable right now, but here's what the court's going to do. The court's going to indicate a $10,000, 10% bond.
Donos are flying.
Followed by
Thank you so
conditions not
much,
to be in
guys.
Contact with Ms. Milliken. That's phone contact, text message, email, social media, third party, no calls from the jail, from Wyandotte Jail, Wayne County Jail, anything of the like. Do you understand that, sir?
Yes, I do. I'm sorry, I don't think.
Contact your work on your own. Don't have somebody else contact. Don't have her contact for you. You can have your aunt contact. I don't care, but not her. You're not to enter the premises on 3rd Street with the exception of one visit to obtain personal belongings, so long as you're accompanied by a police officer. That means you contact the police department first, then you go to the property with the officer. You don't go to the property, then call the officers.
Okay,
You're not to possess or consume any alcohol or drugs that are not prescribed. You're not to possess or have any access to firearms or any weapons. Do you have any of those, sir?
no, I have no weapons.
You also already have a GPS tether through the Wayne County Jail. The court will indicate house arrest. You may work with proof shown. Any questions regarding the bond conditions?
No,
Okay, you'll get a copy of these bond conditions, sir, and the court's also going to indicate notice to prosecuting officials is being sent to Mr. Kazak. All right. Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
Not this
Anything
time,
else,
Judge.
Mr. Western? All right, thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Okay, I promised myself I wasn't going to do it, but this is just too good to not show and watch with you guys. Like, this is unbelievable. It's blowing up on my channel. It is unbelievable. I cannot believe I found it. It's from Veterans in Politics. If you haven't subscribed to them, it's a cool channel. They like updated channels. It's just stuff from Nevada. It's really cool. It's a really cool channel. I don't know how it popped up in my feed, but this one, well, I won't play the whole thing through. We'll just go to the part. It gives me chills just for playing it for you guys. Let's roll, and then I'm gonna go into then we're gonna roll the main event. So here we go. Let's have some fun with this one.
Buck, please. Very sorry about the bad delay so far, Dean.
And just excuse the audio. This isn't a professional recording like on Zoom, like in Simpson's Court and Manning and all that stuff. So it's a little choppy. Just deal with it. I'll try to lower it as much as I can. And the reason why it's so staticky is because these lawyers are screaming at the top of their lungs at the judge, and the judge goes right back. So if you haven't seen this yet, you can throw a like on the regular video. We're gonna play it now. It is fantastic.
6-4. Thank you. Appreciate everyone's patience. D649405 as Buck versus Redmond. May we have appearances, please?
Good morning, Your Honor. Louis Schneider, 9683, on behalf of Jared Buck.
Relax.
He's the father, Your Honor. He's here in my office.
It's not like that the whole time.
Very good.
Good morning, Your Honor. Jennifer E. Subar, number 13157, on behalf of Mariah Rittman, who is present.
Okay, now we don't have current orders here. In fact, the parties I don't believe have been to mediation yet. And the mom's filed a motion for custody, sole custody and relocation to Texas and supervised visitation to dad, which is kind of impossible if there's a relocation. But she says that she knew dad was a convicted felon for child endangerment, a 10-year sentence. But she had a child with him and wanted him to be an equal parent in spite of this. She says dad started using cocaine and abusing alcohol, so he checked himself into rehab on July 24th of last year. And while he was in rehab, she took child and moved to El Paso, where she filed a custody case. So she wants to relocate to El Paso, and she wants child support, etc. Dad opposes this. He wants Nevada to assert child custody jurisdiction because this is the home state when both parents filed. He said mom took child to Texas with dad. She took child to Texas without dad's knowledge or consent on or about July 24th. With consent, but with understanding that there would be a promise to return in August when dad got out of a 30-day rehab, but she didn't come back. So he is saying it was with his consent, but with the understanding that mom would return in August at the end of his rehab. Then mom filed a Texas custody case on December 7th. Dad filed a Nevada custody case on 12/8.
Yeah, if the audio was perfect, 00, this would be one of the greatest videos of all time. I just so mad that they screwed that the audio wasn't great.
In fact, says there's not only is he opposed to the relocation, but that he's the one that he's also opposed to supervised visits, and in fact he should be the main custodian. He says both he and mom were abusing alcohol, but things came to a head on July 24th. The difference, he says, is he went to rehab to get clean, but mom, rather than acknowledging and addressing the problems, and from dad's perspective, she just took child and ran off. And he says he's sober now, lives in a 2-bedroom condo in a gated community in Green Valley, close to the school, and he wants mom to pay him support. Now, as far as this emergency
Thank you, Scotty.
Custody jurisdiction, I mean, Nevada was the home state at the time of filing. I assume that Nevada should at least assert emergency jurisdiction. This is where everyone initially lived until mom left in late July. At least, so if there is a necessity for a UCCJA conference with Texas as to ongoing or home state jurisdiction, unless Texas has claimed emergency or temporary jurisdiction, some
Membership.
states needs to claim it, and it would seem appropriate that it's Nevada, since everyone agrees mom, dad, and Charlotte, minor child, lived here until mom left in July. And of course, a big operative fact that's in dispute is dad saying he gave his consent, but it was limited to mom returning in August. Mom, I don't know exactly what she's saying. She just said in her motion it was with the consent. I guess she's saying he permanently consented. I'm not sure why he would if his rights weren't established yet, and it wasn't agreed what he'd receive in terms of custodial or visitation rights. And in fact, mom is now arguing he should have limited and supervised visits. Now, dad does have a felony conviction for child endangerment years ago, but not for this child, and mom decided to have a child with him knowing full knowledge of that after he was released from prison. So and she wanted him to be a full and co-equal parent. So we're focusing not on that, something which mom knew about and did not consider important, not important to the point where she wanted him to co-parent on a 50-50 basis. So it really is focused on what's occurred lately or since then. What mom is saying is dad
Peach.
uses cocaine and alcohol. Dad says I have some chemical dependency problems, but I went to rehab and I'm addressing it. And I'm sober, and he's pointing the dirty end of the stick at mom to say, but she was in this together with me, and she's not acknowledging her problem, and I am. So we got a big mess here, obviously. So starting with Mr. Schneider, it's your motion. Go ahead.
It's my motion first, Your Honor.
I'm
My
sorry?
motion was filed first.
I think the motion to relocate was
First.
filed first by Mr. Schneider, right?
No, by Ms. Isu.
Oh, you're the I got the names transferred.
No, I'm the plaintiff, Your Honor.
I represent Ms. Rittman. She filed a motion to relocate first.
Okay.
Then Mr. Schneider filed a motion a few days later.
Okay, I have on my papers. They were transposed. Okay. Okay.
Thank
I don't
you.
believe that's correct.
So,
I
Your
filed
Honor-
the case in Nevada. I opened the case in Nevada. That's
yeah,
my
that was our motion. So the person that filed the motion
Whoever
first want to
well,
speak
as long as
first.
someone talks first, I don't really care. Okay.
I'll be happy to talk
Okay.
first because it's our motion. that
Thank
was
you,
filed first.
Karen.
Okay.
So in this
Here we
case,
go.
the opposing party did consent for my client and the child to move to El Paso, Texas. He has a very long history of substance abuse. This is not like a one-time thing where he went out and did a couple of lines and had a
Let
good
me
night
ask you
and went home.
if
This
he
is like an
consented to it, if
well-
he consented to it, what's he doing here vociferously complaining about?
Well, he has mental health issues, this man, okay? Not only has he done so much
When
drugs,
he
he
consented,
also
Not for nothing, but this lawyer knows a little too much about the drug game. And he go out in a couple lines.
So
what
now
was
he's
what was the agreement as to what his time would consist of? You can't say he consented and knew she'd asked for
Well,
supervision.
here's the thing, Your Honor. When people are under the influence and they're so dependent on drugs, they probably don't think straight. We all know that, right?
Let me ask you this then. Is
They
it a
make
valid-
certain arguments.
Okay, we have a critical constitutional right. Is it a valid consent if you say, you can't have it both ways. You can't say he consented, then on the other hand, his brain is completely scrambled, then he lacks.
Listen, here's what I'm
Hold on,
saying. You're asking me
I'm
for
asking you a
specific
question.
terms, Your Honor.
Does he have?
Here are the facts, okay? Your Honor, here
I'm
are the
asking
facts.
you a question. Okay, if you don't
What is
wanna
your
answer
question? What is your question?
Okay, the question.
If you're not
is-
going to let me argue the motion, then why did you ask me to argue the motion? Okay, what is your question? Let me answer it for you. What is the question?
You can just present if you want to, but when I practiced, I always wanted to answer questions. I always wanted to know what's important to the court. I always wanted that opportunity.
What's
if you're
important to you, Your
interested in
Honor?
that,
What questions
okay.
you want? What were the terms? Okay, let me ask
a couple
Mariah.
questions.
Mariah, were there any
Hold on,
specific
a couple
terms?
questions,
Were
okay?
there any?
Okay.
Your Honor, come on. We've been waiting for an hour and a half for the
And I
hearing. Could you
understand
please not
that,
do
and I
this?
apologize for that, but that's
Please
not
don't
a-
do this to
that's
us.
not
Let
a
us just make our
justification.
argument.
We're not gonna turn it into the Jerry Springer
We've been here
show.
for an hour and a half waiting. Now you're.
Okay. Apologize for that. That's not an
Just let
excuse.
Mr. Rollins
this
speak
off
for an
the-
hour. He was
the
talking
run.
gibberish.
Okay,
Now we're arguing the motion and you're interrupting me. Why
okay,
didn't you interrupt Mr. Rollins?
okay. You can, here's what, I'll limit it to 2 questions at this point, because I'm not gonna understand the argument. unless-
Mr.
and
Rollins
should-
talked like a monkey for
you
2
should welcome-
hours. We
you
sat
should-
here.
You should welcome the opportunity to answer these two questions.
Okay, let me answer what is
Okay,
the
no,
question?
I'm gonna ask them, then you'll answer them, please. Number one, can he provide consent on a critical constitutional right involving a child if you're saying his brains are completely scrambled? That's one.
Talking about after the fact.
Number
I'm
two.
talking about
Hold
after
on,
the
now,
fact,
hold
not
on,
at the time
hold
that he
on,
consented.
hold on. Number two, or we'll end this in 2 seconds. Okay, number two, what was the agreement because certainly he didn't agree to relocate and be unsupervised or no visit. So what was the agreement as to what his visitation and custodial time is? I apologize very much for just raising my voice and shouting, and I think if you should do the same, but you're not required to. Now go ahead and answer. Please answer the 2 questions.
I do apologize. Okay, Mariah, was there a specific terms of when he would visit the child? It was after he got sober, right? He would come out and visit. And in fact, he did visit one time. And his mother also visited and stayed at Mariah's house. But there was no set schedule of when he would come out because he has his own problems that he's trying to resolve, which he hasn't resolved. Ongoing issues that went on for years that don't usually get resolved within 30 days of rehab. He then went to a safe. So did I answer your question, or is there more, Mariah, about any terms?
I indicated as long as you were quiet long enough for me to ask the 2 questions, do you answer them in whatever fashion you deem appropriate and to move on. I'm not going to add a 3rd or 4th question now. That would be most unwise of me. So let's proceed.
So the opposing party has also health issues. Okay? He's threatened to commit suicide. He's threatened to kill Mariah and the child if she ends the relationship. I mean, you can't just make statements like that and get away with it. He was so involved with drugs, he started selling drugs for a drug dealer, right? But then what he did is he got high off his own supply. So everybody knows rule number 1 is don't get high off your own supply, right?
Did she just say that? She's giving out the Biggie Smalls 10 crack commandments. Never get high on your own supply. Oh my God. I can't. I absolutely can't with this lady.
Well, that's exactly what he did. Then the drug dealer threatened to kill Mariah and the child in lieu of that drug debt. So Dad has a lot of issues. He can't even handle his own life. He can't even take care of himself. He's been absent from his child's life since July. I mean, if someone truly cares about their child and they're truly taking care of their child, if their child's not in their presence within 1 hour, they're going to do something. They're going to call the police. They're going to call 911. They're going to call the FBI. They're going to call the missing child. They're going to go file a complaint. He didn't do anything because he was partying like a rock star. That's what he thinks. And in fact, Mariah's been hearing from third parties that he continues to do drugs. He doesn't have the issue under control. We want to request today a drug test. I hope it comes out clean, but we want to further request random drug tests during the pendency of this case, where Mariah could just request at any time a drug test to make sure this man is no longer consuming drugs. Okay? This man would disappear for days at a time and then show up in the middle of the night, ransack the house, cause drama, invite people over to engage with more drug use. So considering his history of child endangerment, I don't know if Mariah knew that he had the child endangerment charges when she had this child with him. I think she learned about this after the fact. Correct, Mariah? Was it after? Anyways, we can come back to that. So the fact of the matter is, Your Honor, considering his drug use, considering his mental state, he then went to a safe house, but we don't believe it finished. He finished the requirements there. He complained that someone stole his wallet, so he left. So, I mean, this person probably needs years and years of treatment to overcome his issues that took him years and years to develop. It's been Mariah who's been taking care of this child since July, or even before that, actually, because even if they were together, he wasn't actually jointly raising this child. It was always Mariah that was setting time aside to make sure that this child's needs have been met. At this point, she's requesting that she continues to stay in El Paso, Texas, because her and the child have been staying there. She has family there to assist her. It's a better lifestyle. She further did some more research that it's a safe environment. He's not going to be exposed to drugs. He's not going to be exposed to Dad just showing up out of nowhere while he's high. Lower lifestyle.
better schools, and that's ultimately what Mariah is looking to do, is to improve her life and the child's life. And she's been there for months. And I'm sorry, Your Honor, I raised my voice at you. Thank you.
It's not that you raised your voice, it's that I don't care about that, I care about the fact that you're not, and the question, and maybe Mr. Snyder can, I'm concerned that the questions, these are basic questions. We can't have it where someone's brains are scrambled and then say.
You got it, Phil.
They gave their meaningful consent.
Listen, on drugs, I can't control.
And then number two, he would, if.
Drugs, then take care. I can't be responsible for the conduct, Your Honor.
Okay, and I get that, but that's a deflection, that's not what this is about.
Conduct. He needs to be responsible for that, and I want us to focus more on that. Because if someone's scrambled on drugs, they can't take care of a child.
What's up,
That's
Welsh?
all I care about. The
Danny
child.
boy.
Here's the problem though, with the, if we have somebody likewise who gave consent and we're saying, well, and they didn't give their consent, they gave their consent, but they didn't ask what time I'm gonna get, and it was understood they'd have no rights except supervised visits, that individual, likewise, if the agreement is when his brains are scrambled, likewise, that is a faulty consent type analysis. And also, he's saying that, and we can find out, he's saying he passed a drug test today, and that he's
What's up, Heather?
The rehab, and that he didn't in fact give consent. He's saying his consent was for her to return in August. Now, does anyone have any emails or communications where they discuss this? Or are we supposed to rely on these two people as to what they verbally said? And if I have to rely on that, I'm going to have to make a finding that one of them has a great deal more credibility than the other, and I would have to do that via testimony or something. So, does Mr. Snyder, honestly, so does anyone have any communications about this?
Mariah has text messages between him and her. I have to the and I'm happy to present those further with the book, but listen.
Does he say yes, move to El Paso with Charlotte? That's fine.
Okay, so if you want to see the rest of this video, because I already have this, I posted it today, and most of you probably saw the rest of it. I'm not just going to replay this. I just wanted to get that first part in because I wanted to watch that with you. She is Karen at Law, Esquire. Oh my God. Thank you for the donos, people. Let's keep rocking and rolling. We got the Welsh News Network in here. Credit to Mikey, always stopping by. Hi to everybody who's new. Thank you for stopping by. I have let's do the update on Miss St. John, and then we will go to the family hearing that I have, and then we will call it a week. Here we go, Miss St. John. This is part 3. If you haven't seen it, I have the saga in my playlist. All right, she is one of the most unintelligent people I have ever come across. Very entitled, thinking Section 8 could buy her a house. Just a very long, drawn-out saga. Here is the ending, we hope. Very quick, and then we'll get into the main event. Here we go.
And then on April 6th,
I'm loving the HD camera on
defendant dropped off a
Wyandotte.
notice of hearing.
She
titled
looks
Grace
beautiful. Not Miss St. John.
Then, on
We know what
April
we're talking
10th,
about.
defendant filed the motion to set aside the judgment after hearing and see the eviction. And so, we received a response. We set it for hearing for today's date. Received a response from
Oh, no.
counsel on April 24th. And we are here today for a hearing. And so, the motion.
What's up,
that
Momster?
Ms. St. John filed. It's a motion to set aside judgment after hearing and say eviction, indicating as the basis that Lennox Property Management did not submit certificate of occupancy. And Lincoln Park Housing Authority and Commission does have their payment on hold of $10,000. I don't know that that's a reason to set aside the judgment. The court has also reviewed the response by plaintiff, and And so, Ms. St. John, this is your motion, so what else would you like the court to know?
My social security is deposited on the 3rd, and I put all the little stuff. I don't have anyone to help me into storage with extra space storage on Fort Street in Southgate, and I can pay the moving company, and I have them lined up with my deposit that goes straight to Public Service Credit Union, and then they can. I'll be out. If that's okay.
You'll be out when?
May 3rd, if you could. Want to give me a check? It's deposited. It's not a real check. It's a straight line deposit, like, into the credit union, not the Comerica Bank.
Okay, so counsel, Ms. St. John's is saying that she can be out Wednesday, May 3rd.
Yeah, so I don't know if I think we did actually submit a writ at some point in this case. If we did, then yeah, maybe we'll just, if Your Honor wants to enter that writ and just maybe add a line that says no eviction to occur until after May 3rd. I think that's in a few days, so that's okay with that. And then if she moves out, great. If she doesn't, then we'll have the writ and we'll call the sheriff.
Okay, so I don't see a writ that was submitted yet, counsel. I see the judgment that this court signed on March 31st. Then I see Ms. St. John's motion that she filed April 6th. Because at that point, the 10 days hadn't yet passed. Let me just see if I'm missing something here. Then her motion April 10th.
Motions.
I would presume because she filed the motion, maybe that's why the writ wasn't submitted. Let me just, I'm sorry. Oh, here it is. It was sent in April. The court received it April 7th.
So basically what's going on is it's either she moves out, which she says she's getting her money from Section 8, she's got whatever, her $10,000, blah, 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 or they're just going to knock on the door with the sheriff. So pretty uneventful compared to the first 1 and 2, but I know us court watchers, we need closure. So we just got closure on that. Why do I have a feeling we're going to see her again at some point? She's just a nut. All right, here we go. Judge Mulberry, let's do this. I know us court watchers love watching her, and if you don't record it, it is gone. This one is chock full of everything. Just sit back and relax. This one's great, and I have a part 2 that I'll show also. Part 1 is very lengthy. Sit back, enjoy it. It's crappy out, at least by me. Enjoy it. We are going to have some fun with this one. I'm coming, guys. All right, here we go.
Oh, yes, Miss. We'll do appearance. Mr. Davis represents Miss Abigail Moore, one of the interveners, paternal aunt.
So set up here, we are fighting over custody, who should have them, who shouldn't. We have people involved in jail with drugs and all this other good stuff. So let's go. CPS is involved. This has everything. Let's go.
Let me do that in just a second, Miss Greenwald.
I don't believe I introduced the text message with Carrie and Nancy Price.
Okay, well, will you look at your exhibit?
Miss Lang,
Yes,
can you mute, please? There's some feedback or something coming from you.
Sure, sorry.
Okay, are you there?
I have exhibit 9, Judge.
Okay. I have Intervener Moore, Exhibit 9, and it looks like it's Hi, Raphael. Could you clear the air for us?
That's the correct one, Judge.
Peach, check your
Is that
Discord,
right?
Peach.
It's 9, Judge. That's what is mislabeled as 8 on your exhibit list.
Okay. Okay, then go to the next page. Intervener Moore, Exhibit 9, page 1. And it says CARRI at the top, and then it's with a text. It was heartbreaking. That's going to be my life, blah, blah, blah.
Putting the volume up, guys.
Is that Exhibit 9, page 2, not page 1?
So I don't believe
I had the volume low because of the case with the bad audio, so I just turned it up for you guys.
I offered in that other exhibit 9, Judge, that you're talking about, and that's how I didn't submit it that way.
The Raphael The
The
Raphael.
Raphael one was offered in, Judge.
Okay. I thought all the rest of these text messages were offered in too. I have them all marked.
Okay, well then the only other way that I could do that is if we said, I think we all agreed maybe to stipulate that they were all in, so maybe that was my mistake. If we call that Exhibit 8 now, or just switch to labeling on them.
Well, what I did,
Judge,
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, and 4 were admitted. 7
1, 2, 3, and 4, yes.
and 7 and 9.
Right. Right. That's right. But the page, there's a bunch of multiple pages. That's what I'm getting at. Okay. Well, what I did, Mr. Davis, is on the Raphael one. Okay.
Okay.
I called that page 1 of 9.
Okay,
And then the rest, you had typed page 1, page 2, whatever, and I just X'd through page 1 and called it page 2.
that's perfect, Judge.
Okay. Okay. So I'm Xing A off my exhibit list, correct?
Thank you. Yes, Judge.
Okay. Okay, so Mr. Dwayne Rogers. The child is Dennis Price III, and he is not here. Obviously, he's represented by Miss Melissa McClure as attorney ad litem, and Miss Nancy McDougall as the CASA advocate, and Miss Kaylee Williman is the supervisor. I think that's everybody.
What's up,
Judge.
JoJo?
Yes.
Nancy, I apologize. Nancy, she was logged in earlier, and I think she texted me and she said her screen was frozen, and so I don't see her logged in anymore. She's having some connection issues. She was going to restart her computer, and she'll get logged back in. If it continues, I'll have her go up to the office and log in off my computer.
Yeah, because I saw her. Excuse me, I saw her face earlier.
Yeah.
She wouldn't be the one that says Marble Falls, would she?
No, ma'am. She was logged in, and she was logged in under her name and everything. I think she must be having some connection issues, but if it continues, I'll have her go to the office.
Okay. And did y'all, I can't remember too many people. Did y'all already tell me who the love lady person is?
She's a witness.
Okay.
She's one of my witnesses.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Davis, your last witness, as you said, was Mr. Tovar. So you can call your next witness. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Greenwald, are you ready?
Yes.
Mr.
Okay.
Davis.
Next witness, Mr. Davis,
is a
please.
piranha.
Is Mr. Tovar still here? Is he here today?
No.
Yes, he's here.
He's here.
I mean, I can briefly recall, I'm not going to rehash everything, Judge, like just a few
What's
questions.
up, Becca?
Okay, thank you. He's here.
Mr. Tovar, just go ahead and state your full name.
Raphael Tovar.
And we're going to just kind of pick up from kind of where we were last time, without going back into everything. One of the concerns, it seemed like you were indicating that, or mainly the only concern I heard you really reference with regards to Miss Moore, was that at the visits, she was not
What's up,
listening
Craig?
and feeding baby Dennis too much, correct?
That's correct.
And hovering over him and not letting him explore, correct?
Correct.
That's the source of your main complaints, correct?
Correct.
But the truth is that only happened on in the early stages, correct?
No, I do think that was pretty much been a consistent thing since besides the last visit.
Okay, consistent thing since the last visit. So, and then just to clarify, baby Dennis now, I mean, when he originally came in, he was overweight, right? He was pretty heavy.
That's correct.
That's not how he looks anymore, right?
No, he definitely, you can see his neck now.
Well, I mean, if you look at him now, you wouldn't actually think that he was an overweight child, would you?
No, you wouldn't.
So there's been a lot of progress there, correct?
Correct.
Now, so are you telling this court that you never sent out an email indicating how great of a job Abigail did with the visit, with the feeding, somewhere in January?
Yes, I believe I did send an email out saying that the visit did go well.
Okay. So, and that she was letting him walk around and things of that nature, and it was a great, happy visit, right?
Yes, it did go really well.
The truth is, they've all been like that since that time frame, right?
They have all been really happy, but I know that helicoptering and post supervision to the point where he's not able to explore fully is still an issue.
Okay.
Besides this very last visit where I heard it did improve.
But so your statement that she's been consistently not listening to directions and overfeeding, that's not accurate, right?
I would
Objection,
say that
mischaracterizes testimony.
If I misunderstood you, Mr. Tovar, please correct me, but I believe you said
Judge, you're muted.
I'm muted.
No, I am. So I didn't hear Mr. Rogers was talking. There were too many people talking when Mr. Rogers did something. I guess he objected.
I just objected, mischaracterizes testimony.
I think that's overruled.
Mr. Tovar, I believe I heard you say that it's been a consistent problem, except for maybe this last visit or so. But that's
Yeah.
not accurate, is it?
I believe it is accurate in the email. I was pretty much just referring to that the visit did go well. I don't have it here in front of me, but if I remember it correctly, it was that the visit did go well. He was able to explore and walk around. However, the more we've observed Miss Abigail Moore is we notice that she does closely supervise him to the point where it does kind of impede him a little bit. And I believe January, I'm not too sure what the timeline was for visits, but I think that was around somewhere in the middle maybe. But I would say that the statement still is accurate, that her supervision, not following directions, that's always been an issue.
So you never sent an email saying to the extent Miss Moore brought Mr. Moore today as well as Canyon, which was nice to see, and they did well in feeding him the food the caregiver brought. Then you talked about the group playing things and how he was changed, supervised appropriately, and overall there were no issues.
Right.
Anything like that?
That does sound familiar, and I believe the feeding in that visit did go well. So maybe it's, I guess I could say it's not a consistent thing, but it's definitely somewhere in the 90th percentile for still being an issue.
But with regards to baby Dennis's health, I mean, assuming you're not being picky, but regarding baby Dennis's health, he's not a big overweight child anymore, is he?
That's correct.
Okay. Now I want to, so you heard all the testimony last time. You'd seen some of the text messages come up drawing, inferences about drugs that were being supplied by grandparents, conflict with some problems with the aunts that we pointed out in their home studies. Do you remember all that?
That's correct. Yeah, I do remember.
So is it my understanding at the time we had that hearing last time, it was the only people that the department could recommend were the great aunt in San Antonio, correct?
Correct.
And Abigail Moore, right?
That's correct.
All right, so following all your testimony we had last time, is the department still telling this court that placement with great aunt is the proper placement?
Yes, that's correct.
Just refresh the court. That's the disabled aunt. They've been through all sorts of trauma. None of their references would call them back, right?
Objection, mischaracterizes and argumentative.
Hold on. Can y'all hear Mr. Davis, or is it just me?
I can hear him.
Now he's frozen. Do y'all see? Am I frozen? Can y'all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I can hear you.
Okay, let me log off and come back in.
Too much, and you said yes, but do you also have a concern about how well she's bonding with the child?
Yes, I do. In terms of how visitations go, I feel like
Sexy Wexley, he's lurking.
Dennis is in general a very happy child, and he seems like he could get along with really anybody.
Thank you, Wex.
But I'm noticing that his attachment or his attitude in visits changes definitely compared to Miss Moore versus when Miss Dyer, Mr. and Miss Parker, and then the Anderson, Kathy Anderson and Linda DeBravo. He definitely seems to be very attached to them, and seems like in my experience, he's very attached to Mr. Dyer as well.
Mr. Tovar, what did you say? Linda Anderson, something Bravo?
Oh, sorry, it's Kathy Anderson and Linda DeBravo.
Thank you.
Okay. And then another question that came up again was, I think the terminology was that baby Dennis was a big overweight child at the beginning of the case. And, but at the beginning of the case, hadn't he been in the care of Miss Nancy primarily, his paternal grandmother? Is that right?
That's correct. It was told to me that he was with Miss Price, Nancy Price, for around 75 to 90% of the time.
And you also heard testimony from Abigail, and she even had pictures, right, that showed she had a lot of contact with the child during that time. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And then we talked about the email that was sent. Did you hear the date of when that was? Was that early when the visitations began? Is it possible that it was after, it was before the occupational therapist had provided very specific instructions that you guys were hoping the visitors would follow? Is that a possibility?
That sounds about right. And initially he started with physical therapy through an intake, and then he started physical therapy before he actually transitioned to occupational therapy. So at the time, we didn't have very many recommendations from ECI, I believe during that time in January.
So the point of your concerns had been, once those guidelines came from the licensed professional guiding the proper way to feed baby Dennis, those instructions were not followed. Is that your intention?
That's correct.
Okay. And then finally, we talked about the approved home studies, and you've already provided this testimony before, because it's been brought up again today, I'd like to reiterate it. The only reason that the Dyers cannot be recommended by the state is because of the failure of their home study, and that is solely because of the criminal history that Mr. Dyer has. Is that correct?
That's correct. The only concern listed in their home study that led to the denial was Mr. Dyer's criminal history.
And that's actually a policy rule within the department, right?
That's correct.
So any conviction of a particular, and that actual offense fell within the penal code, which is an absolute bar for you, the department, to be able to approve the home study. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So absent that, they'd be your number one choice. Is that right?
As it stands right now, I can't make a recommendation, or I can make a recommendation that we can't approve them just solely based off of that.
Solely because of the whole home study. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. I pass the witness.
Just one or two questions, Your Honor. Mr. Tovar, we've discussed how baby Dennis was overweight at the beginning of the case, and he's made progress on his weight. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And where has he been? You don't need to give the address or the name, but what sort of care has he been residing in since the case began?
He's been in foster care in a very urban area.
And so a lot of that weight loss is really attributed to the fosters and their caregiving. Is that correct?
Absolutely. They've been working extremely diligent with him since day one through various appointments, and definitely been really closely working with him.
And your testimony regarding Ms. Moore's visits, there may have been one visit that went well in January, but in general, you still have concerns about helicoptering and overfeeding and bonding?
That's correct.
I have nothing further. Thank you, Mr. Tovar.
Anybody else? I think Ms.
briefly,
Parker.
Judge.
Okay, hold on, Ms. Parker, we'll get you. Michelle.
Thank you. Mr. Tovar, and this is really just a procedural question. If the Dyers were to be placement, due to their not having a qualified home study, would that affect any sort of benefits monthly that they could receive on behalf of baby Dennis?
Yes, they wouldn't be able to receive kinship funding through our kinship program if they were approved as placement.
And long term, if they were considered as permanent placement, once this case is over, baby Dennis also would not receive any permanent kinship placement benefits either. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, yes.
And the department can't approve placement for baby Dennis temporarily. And in the long term, without a qualifying home study, the department also could not approve an adoption of baby Dennis by the Dyers. Is that also true?
That's correct.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Park, hold on, Ms. McClure. Parker, did you have a question, Mr. Tovar?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Tovar, since our last home study, we had a revisit by you and an associate last Monday. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Did you see any noticeable difference in our home?
Yes, I did notice that the house was decluttered. A lot of the pictures saying for the kitchen counter, for example, all of that was cleared out. walkways were made and the whole house seemed to be reorganized in order to be safe for a child of Dennis's age to be walking around in. I did notice maybe a few concerns with like fragile objects maybe being on shelves, but nothing to the point where it was, I would say that it would be considered dangerous. I noticed that, you know, a fire extinguisher was purchased and smoke detectors were also purchased. And it was obvious that some significant attempts were made in order to try to baby-proof the home and make sure that it's safe and up to fire safety codes.
Okay. Also, did we have a discussion concerning an email about drug use and drug selling?
Yes, that's correct. We had a discussion about the, I believe it was Mr. Davis who had mentioned the text message. I believe it was from Jamie to Carrie, saying that our mom had purchased drugs for Laura. I believe that's the message that we had a discussion about.
Oh, well, did we explain that to you, to your
Yes, you did.
satisfaction? Is there anything else that is keeping us from being considered adopting parents?
The only thing that's waiting in order for your home study to be approved is we do have the emergency background caregivers that I reached out to you for, backup caregivers. I haven't been able to get in touch with them, and I just
Oh,
needed
you
their
haven't,
information.
you haven't made the contact
I'm
Robert?
sorry. I'm sorry, Miss Parker. Can y'all not talk on top of each other?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I missed that. Backup caregivers I haven't been able to get in touch with.
Yes, ma'am. I have been able to get in touch with the backup caregivers to do background checks. I did send you a message asking if you could maybe reach out to them and either get their information or allow me to, or just tell them to call me back.
Okay, I didn't receive that message. Maybe my husband did, but we'll make sure we do that. His nephew, I know, will give John a very good recommendation, and myself as well. So we'll contact them today.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anything else, Ms. Parker?
Not at this time, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McClure?
Thank you, Judge. Raphael, the department has certain policies it has to follow, and those policies don't allow you to make a recommendation for the Dyers because of the formal criminal history, correct?
That's correct.
And people can look really good on paper. People can get their house cleaned. They know when the home study people are coming. They can clean up their house. They can make sure that they've got all the rules followed. So, you know, if you really wanted to, just about anybody could look good on paper.
That's correct, yes.
But as far as hours of observation, of actual visits with actual possible placements, you and I and everyone else in our group here, we've spent over 30 hours, almost 40 hours now. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
And, you know, comparing, if you had the choice of only looking at a piece of paper and determining placement based on the piece of paper, or over almost 40 hours of actual observation of the child with the various placements, if you could pick one or the other and only one or the other, which one do you think would give you better information?
I feel like watching visitations occur and seeing the actual interactions in real time, and not only that, but watching the growth in each caregiver week by week and learning how to bond with the child, I would say proves to be much more valuable when it comes to determining the appropriateness of a caregiver in real time.
Do you remember at the beginning of the case when we had Zoom meetings with Nancy and then with Abigail?
Yes, that's correct.
And I think it was at that Zoom meeting is where Nancy said that she had cared for Dennis 75 to 90% of the time.
That's correct.
Did she ever exhibit any concern about his weight?
No, it was actually quite the opposite when she found out that we weren't feeding him at every single time that he was crying, especially at the very, very first visit with Miss Carrie Price and Miss Nancy Price at the very start of the case. She had really expressed some significant concerns that we weren't feeding him enough, that he was crying, so we needed to continue to feed him, but our concerns were that he is significantly overweight, and he was currently placed on a diet or regimen to where essentially his calorie intake wouldn't increase. They would just allow his development to catch up with his current weight. But Miss Nancy Price didn't find that answer sufficient, and so it was definitely a little bit of a combative discussion trying to get her to see our reasoning.
And that same conversation was had with Abigail Moore. Did she exhibit any concern about his weight during her conversation?
No, she did not.
And so with the child at near the time of removal, no, the two people in the Price family that were trying to obtain placement exhibited no concerns at all about that.
Yes, that's correct.
How long has Mr. Jamie Moore, I'm sorry, too many people, and I'm sorry, I'm still sick, Judge. James Dyer.
What up, Kitch?
How long
What up,
has
Shane?
he not just talked the talk, but how long has he walked the walk of being an exemplary citizen since his release from prison?
Oh gosh, I think it's off the top of my head, I think it's been, I want to say almost 10, 20 years, somewhere in that range, if I had to wager a guess.
And during that time, life hasn't been easy necessarily for him.
That's correct. I've talked to various amount of references for him, and seems like each of them kind of had a different insight into him at different points in his life. One, I think, was his first employer when he was released, who wound up becoming really close friends of him and his family. And then there was also a longtime employer who I believe he either is currently working for or used to work for as well, who had great things to say about him. And everybody just seemed to say that initially, when they had first met him, they heard of his criminal charge of the negligent homicide. And I believe the wife of one of his references said that she was definitely, it raised her eyebrows and her ears a little bit when she heard about it. But then she said over time, when they had gotten to know Mr. Dyer and allow their kids to go over and currently allow him to babysit, that they became very close friends, and they think that he's a very well-mannered, well-meaning individual.
So he's had years to demonstrate a change in his behavior.
That's correct.
Do you believe that based on your observations of the way Dennis responds during his visits with Jamie and James, do you believe that he is bonded to them?
Absolutely. He, at this last visit, watching him essentially check in with each of the caregivers when he was playing, he would go and play at the kitchenette set in the visitation room. And then he would just turn around and voluntarily walk over to Mr. Dyer and ask to be picked up and held. And then he would hold them and play with them and then set him back down and allow him to go explore. And that happened quite a few times during the visit, where he would just walk up to Mr. Dyer or Miss Dyer and just desire to be held by them. And just almost, I put it as checking in, because it just seemed like he would just say, oh, I have to go over there and give my aunt or uncle a kiss, and then I'll go back over here to the kitchen set.
And did that seem to be exhibiting to you the signs of a child who is safe and feels secure and bonded with those caregivers?
Yes, absolutely. I definitely think that was a major indication of his attachment to the caregivers, or to Mr. Dyer and Miss Dyer.
And do you believe that the time that Dennis has had to get to know them and to bond with them, that would be a good bridge towards placement with them at some point if the court were to rule for that?
Yes, I believe that would be really, really great for us to use if the court was to order placement.
You can't recommend it because of the department's policies.
That's correct. I can't recommend it, and the department doesn't recommend it, but that is something that we could build off of if placement was ordered by the court.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions, Joe.
Anybody else?
What's up, Flying Monkey?
I do. I have more. Go ahead. Hold on. Mr. Davis, to you.
Yeah, Judge, if you don't mind, just briefly, I didn't want to have to open it all back up again.
Hey,
but
Wendy, what's up, Shaquille?
Just
Ardo.
to kind of refresh, because we did stop after you were talking a long time last hearing, okay? We went through a variety of inconsistencies in Jamie's report, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And you're telling this court today that the only concerns I have or this old criminal history from dad years ago, right?
That's correct.
You're not concerned about any misstatements and misleading of information you might be getting, right?
That's correct. As far as I understand it from everything in the home study, I do believe it to be accurate until I have something on paper saying otherwise.
No, hold on, Raphael. You're saying now it's accurate, but look, last time, and I hate to have to go back into it all, unless if court would like to stop me if it recalls the previous testimony, that's fine. But when this first starts, we've got Jamie Dyer saying that she's got a great relationship with her mom and stepdad, right?
That's correct.
And that's not true, right?
I do believe that she does, based off the visitations. In fact, they do sit in occasionally with each other and they get along really well.
I'm sorry. While this case has been pending, you're saying they've got a great relationship, right?
Yes, I haven't observed any sort of contempt or.
Now let's be clear. But you're aware, because we talked about this last time in your testimony, that her and her mother had a huge source of conflict, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I mean, for going back to her childhood, she left home at age 17, right?
Yes, I believe that's correct.
Is this all in the report? Got married, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And then we talked about how in Jamie's report, she says there was no history of drug abuse or any physical abuse in my family growing up, right?
That's correct.
And I asked you last time, I said, well, isn't it true though that she indicated also, or that there's stuff out there indicating that stepfather used to abuse her?
That's correct.
Okay, but that's okay. And then I showed you a text last time from Carrie saying that Jamie's mom had involvement in getting Lori into her drug problem.
That's correct.
That Lori went to prison for, right?
That's correct.
None of them could adopt Wesley except for Carrie, right?
Yes, I believe that's what we talked about.
Right. And then you also believe us talking about how Jamie had called the cops on her mom numerous times and had no trespassing signs on her in the front yard?
Yes, I believe that was our discussion.
Didn't invite her to Carrie's baby shower?
That's correct.
Okay. And then, and that's one of her main sources of assistance, right? If I need help, if I need a date night, I'm going to go give them to, mom and grandpa and stepdad, right?
That's correct.
Before this suit, she had a terrible relationship with her mother.
That's
right.
As far as I've heard it, yes.
Okay, so as far as you've heard, yes. So anytime anything comes up on Abigail, oh, she's not bonding, oh, she feeds too much. But anything that comes up on the Dyer side, oh, that's all in the past, water under the bridge, right?
Objection argumentative.
Staying.
And then when this case started, the only person that jumped through all the hoops immediately before Carrie's death was Abigail, wasn't it?
Yeah, she was the first person that we looked at besides Miss Nancy Price for placement.
Exactly. And the Dyers were nowhere to be found. They weren't coming forward, right?
I believe that was just because due to Miss Carrie Price's not wanting them at the time due to her being under duress by Mr. Price.
The duress y'all are now alleging, right? But she's got a huge history of lying and making things up too, correct?
I did hear that she does have a history of being deceptive, but I definitely significantly believe that she wasn't under duress when she came to the office with bruises on her arm.
So, and just to make sure everybody remembers, the violence that was going on in this relationship, it was volatile on both sides, right?
That's correct.
In fact, the original case starts with Carrie being the aggressor. In fact, a protective order was granted against her, correct?
That's correct.
She's had multiple endangerment of children charges in her past, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, I mean, she endangered her other child, Wesley, tried to drive him off into another car, asked him if he wants to die, right?
That's just what I've heard. I don't know the specific details of it.
You've never seen the report where it's in the police report where she says that to him?
No, I haven't seen the police report of that charge.
Okay, but you're aware of the incident, right?
Yes, I am.
And you're also aware she drove the car with Wesley in it through Cody Young's house, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and Cody Young is not even related to Wesley, but he ended up being the adoptive father, right?
That's correct.
Um, the Dyers have almost zero relationship with Wesley, right? They never took him in.
I'm not very familiar with the true extent of their relationship with Wesley.
And then the Dyers also are saying we want to make sure we isolate baby Dennis from the Price side, right?
I believe they did talk about that they are open to doing visitations, at least as long as CPS is willing to help facilitate transport or handoffs or supervision, kind of like how we're doing now.
But in their report, they said we want to get restraining orders. We don't want him to be in with the Price family, right?
That's correct.
Yet his blood half brother is Canyon, and that's with grandma, right? Dennis's mother, right?
That's correct.
And then you've got no concerns about any potential inconsistencies in their reports about maybe their finances. The Dyers.
As far as I understand it, each of the Dyers are able to definitely sustain themselves, and as well as baby Dennis, should he be placed there.
But each of them are. Now, we talked about last time, so I believe I showed you a message about, or to ask you, would it surprise you to know that, well, first of all, they don't own the home they're in, right?
Yes, I believe it's owned by their employer.
His employer, right?
His employer, yes.
Yeah. And so he's making about $4,100 a month, right?
Correct.
And Ms. Dyer, who just got a job fairly recently, within a year or two, right? She makes $2,700, right?
That's correct.
At the time this case started, at the time y'all did the home study, they didn't even have health insurance, did they?
No, they did not.
Right. And then did they put that fence up around the lake area that was a concern?
Yes, they did.
Okay. And they both work, right? So compared to Abigail Moore, who was a stay-at-home mom, you're still saying that that's the proper placement, right?
Absolutely. Both caregivers working is definitely not a concern to us.
Understood. But they're not going to get assistance from the department, right?
Not kinship funding assistance, no.
Right. And so childcare, none of this is factored into their budget. They don't even have gas on their budget in the home study. You remember that?
Well, I believe the department will still pay for daycare for the Dyers.
Okay. And their rent's only $600, but what happens if they can't live there anymore?
Well, I feel like in any case, when they're not able to live there anymore, then they would have to find new housing.
Right. And we talked last time that she says that she has a good relationship with her sister, but that wasn't true. It's Carrie. That wasn't true either, was it?
I believe the source of strain from the relationship with her sister was due to Mr. Price and the violence that was going on in the household.
Okay. Had nothing to do, we'll get back into it. Had nothing to do with the fact that Jamie evicted her from a contract for deed she was trying to execute on a house that Jamie owned, right? Nothing to do with that?
According to Miss Carrie Price, a lot of her strain with the relationship with her sister was due to the fact that she was continuing to stay with Mr. Price despite the violence that was happening.
Guys, it's been real. It's Sunday. I got family obligations. I had to come and see you guys. You know I'm always thinking about you guys, making this channel as best as I could be. Coming up, this family hearing, I'm going to be playing the rest of this and the part 2 that I have throughout the week. You guys are the best. God bless your families. God bless you all. I will see you tomorrow. You've been served.